Hi everybody, my name's Hayley. We are here today with clinical nutritionist Heather Smith talking all things to do with perimenopause and menopause. I know this space is very confusing for a lot of women and dare I say depressing. So I'm going to pass it over to Heather. Heather's going to give a little bit of an introduction to herself and what she does. Heather.
So, hi everyone, I'm Heather Smith. In case you don't know me, I am a clinical nutritionist with a Bachelor of Health Science in Nutritional Medicine, and I'm also a lifestyle coach. I have a clinical practice that focuses on women's health and hormones, particularly helping women in the perimenopausal to menopause transition. That's really my sweet spot. My approach is evidence-based, it's practical, and I really try and use a whole food approach to health and to life. And I've navigated this journey myself, so I really do understand what sort of challenges it brings. So I do hope that today you'll get some good information. Like Hayley said, if you want a specific question answered, we've got a few that we're going to go through that have already come in. Just pop them down below and we'll do our best to get on them.
Great. So before we start the questions, we're going to ask Heather, what are the 5 top core points that I guess women would need to understand about perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah. So I've got essentially 5 cores that I really do want people to understand. The first being that perimenopause is not a diagnosis, it's not a condition, it is a transition. It is a period of time where your body is transitioning, and that we're going to go into more in depth around that, but it is something that can start many years before menopause actually hits. So I just think it's a good thing to understand the symptoms like anxiety and fatigue and moodiness. Those things can all present really early before you really know what's happening.
Yeah. And what was number 2?
Number 2 is the fact that nutrition really needs to change in midlife. Now, Hayley and I talk about this a lot in our sessions, so I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous, so I do have my little prompter notes because we've got a finite amount of time and I want to make sure I hit everything. So it does need to change, and the key concepts around that are our protein needs change, and I know Hayley talks a lot about that to her clients and in her videos. It's something that we really have to think about. Our muscle loss accelerates as we age, and particularly these are for our menopausal women. Within those first 3 years of menopause, the acceleration just puts down. You just put the gas down. My basic rule of thumb is if you're training, like a lot of us do with Hayley, if you're doing strength training and basic training, 30 grams per meal, 30 grams of quality protein per meal is what I'm looking for with my clients. And then if you're doing endurance training or high rocks training, like Hayley and some of you do, then you're looking around more 35 grams per meal for your total to reach across the day. So it's a really focused amount. The second key concept is blood sugar control is really critical. We don't think about this a lot, but when our estrogen falls, our blood sugar becomes erratic because estrogen actually affects our insulin sensitivity. That blood sugar regulation can often drive a lot of the symptoms of menopause. It can drive our hot flushes. It can drive our anxiety. It can actually drive your moodiness quite dramatically. So it does become a critical point to learn about and learn how to control through nutrition. The third part of the nutrition change in midlife is this is where our gut health becomes really important. So gut health and inflammation matter a lot more. Both progesterone and estrogen affect our gut. It affects the balance of our gut bugs, and it affects the barrier in our gut, which can lead to inflammation and again can really start to drive those symptoms. It can drive our hot flushes, it can drive the bloating that we start to feel, digestive things, immune function as well. You might start to notice in perimenopause you're catching everything under the sun. That's really coming predominantly from that disruption in the gut. So we need to really start to look to nourish our gut function during this transitional phase and beyond. It's super important. And there's some really key ways that I go about doing that. Increasing your fiber to 30 grams a day with a variety of plants, whether it's oats or leafy greens. That fiber is really nourishing for the gut bugs and really nourishing for the gut lining. And it helps with your satiety, which is our feeling of fullness if you're trying to lose weight. That's also really beneficial. The second thing that you can do to help your gut is consume phytoestrogens, particularly important in menopause. And those are things like your soy and legumes. Those are broken down by the good bugs in your gut and help decrease inflammation. And they can also help mimic the effects of estrogen and lighten the load on your symptom picture, which is really beneficial. Third thing you can do. Regular movement and stress management are key to good gut health, as is feeding those bugs, not with just the fiber, but fermented foods, things like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, if that's your jam. Those things can really help rebalance that gut microbiome. Yeah. So that is nutrition needs. So it's really not about, midlife isn't about eating less, it's just about eating a bit differently.
Yeah, touching on soy, I actually want to come back at one point and talk about soy, because I know there is a bit of noise out there that soy's bad, soy's bad. I have heard that quite a lot, so I would like to touch on that. You obviously think soy is not bad.
Look, I think that there is a lot of old data out there that suggests that soy was bad, could feed, conditions like breast cancer, and that's actually been disproven. Right. So when you're focusing on soy, the things that you're wanting to look out for are not having a crap source of soy. Okay. All right, so non-GMO. Don't be getting those flavored soy milks, things full of sugar, just basic soy. I tend to go more for soy foods. So things like edamame beans that we can find in the freezer, things like tempeh and tofu. Those are great sources of fermented soy, which are really beneficial for the gut bacteria as well.
Okay. Yep. Right.
The third thing I want to touch on is hormones do not exist in isolation. So if you're chasing one single hormone like estrogen, you're really missing the big picture of what's going on in perimenopause and menopause. That estrogen affects other hormones, things like insulin, things like cortisol. It affects your thyroid function. It does affect your mood and your sleep in a variety of ways. So just stepping back from that a little bit and understanding it's not just about estrogen and it's not just about progesterone. It's all of this stuff as a nice cohesive picture. The fourth point is lifestyle matters as much as food. The body, lifestyle matters as much as what you're eating. So your body can't really regulate your hormones if you are in a constant state of survival, okay? So stress management becomes really key. Not over-exercising or not having enough recovery time. Things like that, looking at your phone at night and staying up at all hours, those things affect the way your hormones can function. And that's whether you're still getting naturally occurring hormones or whether you're on HRT. So yeah, really focusing on lifestyle. Again, all of these things are pillars to complete health, and it's uber important. Empowerment through education, and this is a big thing for me. It really is that my theory is when we understand our bodies and we understand where we are, because perimenopause in particular can be really a confusing place for women. You're being told everything's fine at a time that you feel nothing like yourself. And there are different stages of perimenopause. And so if you can become educated around it, that's going to empower you to make really informed decisions on your own health care. Do you go with nutrition? Do you go with HRT? Do you look for a really integrative approach to the transition and in through menopause? So those are really the 5 sort of key things that I like women to know about and to be thinking about.
All right, so We've got a couple of people that have asked a few questions which we will dive into. We've also put some questions together as well that Heather gets asked regularly. So if you do on the live have any particular questions that you would like answered, please pop them in and then I will relay them off to Heather. Otherwise, we're going to dive into some questions that we already have. So question one is, how do I know if I'm in perimenopause and when does it start?
Okay, so I know that if you saw Dr. Kadia's live with Hayley, you know that she touched on this a bit. I'm going to reiterate it a little. Perimenopausal symptoms, like I said before, can start long before your cycle changes, and that can happen anywhere from your late 30s to your early 40s. For some women, when it does happen in the late 30s, that's when they're usually told that, no, it's impossible, you're too young. It can happen, it does happen. And it's often difficult because there's no single test to determine or diagnose perimenopause because your hormones are fluctuating wildly. I love women to think about perimenopause as your second puberty. We all remember what that was like, and it was not pretty, okay? We were moody. We were anxious, Yeah, you had acne. That comes back. A really interesting thing to remember is you'll start to see things that were nurture points for you in your early years. Those can often return, or things can crop up or get exacerbated in peri. So things that I noticed, both in myself and my clients, anxiety was one of the first signs of perimenopause for me. Things like rashes on my face, which I'd never had eczema in my life. The sleep disruption, the fatigue, the changes in recovery from exercise can be really dramatic. And those are all things that can happen before your menstrual cycle even starts to show a sign of changing. And so if you think about if things have changed for you significantly and you are in your late 30s or early 40s, chances are there is a hormonal factor driving those changes, and that's likely to be the early stage of perimenopause.
Yeah, so how do you know if you're in it though?
Well, like I say, there's no one test.
Yeah.
As a clinical nutritionist, I do functional testing that can sometimes indicate it. Progesterone is probably the exception to the rule. It's certainly in later stages of peri, because progesterone is the first thing that dives. Whereas estrogen, people go, well, why can't I get my bloods tested and it'll tell me? And it's because your estrogen is peaking and dropping wildly over the course of time. So it's really just ends up being a snapshot.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is talk to someone like myself or someone else that specializes in the area, and we really look at the whole you. What is your symptomology? When did you start your menstrual cycle? What's your family history? When did your mom become menopausal?
Okay.
Does she remember anything about that? It really is kind of piecing that picture together to help you understand where in that cycle you might actually be.
Yeah, and you did mention before this, but another question was, my periods are still regular. Could I still be in perimenopause? And I know you just touched on this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, these things they really build slowly over time before that cycle starts to change.
Yeah.
For a lot of women, a cycle change may only be like a year long. Bring myself into it, because I've been there. I think that my cycle was pretty erratic for maybe a year and a half, 2 years before menopause, but every person is different. And that's why an individual approach is really warranted in this stage. It's not a cookie cutter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
A big one that I get asked all the time, because I am a personal trainer, why am I training hard but I'm gaining weight or not seeing results? So someone that's training the right way but they're still not getting any results.
Yeah, okay. And Kadia may have touched on part of this, but again, this goes back to estrogen's effect on insulin and its ability to do its job. When estrogen falls, we become more insulin resistant, meaning that glucose isn't driving into your cells and into your muscles where it's used to fuel and to help grow muscles, okay? when your insulin isn't working properly and you have glucose cruising around in your body, that glucose has got to go somewhere. So it actually stores as fat, which is, you know, unfortunate.
And for those that don't know what glucose is, what's glucose?
It's blood sugar. Yeah, it's blood sugar that is derived from the food that we eat. Thanks. I am a little bit of a technical geek,
like,
so I've been.
I know, but I know.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it really, you know, really simple. And look, I mean, strength training in midlife is critical. It is critical for our bone health. It is critical, as I said before, to that being able to maintain muscle and strength, super important. It's a great way to get the metabolic afterburn. I know Hayley talks a lot about, why are you doing cardio if you're not training for something like that? You know, if you're not training for a marathon or you're not training for a distance thing, because strength training will actually give you a longer afterburn for the metabolic action to take place and help you burn fat for longer. It's pretty critical there.
I do have a example that I do use a lot for this. Because everyone thinks that cardio is the way, and like, if I want to lose weight, I need to do cardio. How I put it is, if you were to jump on the treadmill, for instance, yes, you burn calories while you're on the treadmill. However, the moment you step off the treadmill, those calories stop.
That's right.
Whereas if you do weight training, as soon as you walk out the door, you are continually burning calories after the fact you've actually finished. That's how I like to put that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense for a lot of people out there.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you are strength training, you really need to make sure that you're adequately fueling that training. So if you're not eating enough and you're overtraining and you're not getting enough recovery, this is really, you know, if you're not supporting the blood sugar, your body is not going to do anything but hang on to the fat that you have. It's going to see that malnutrition, that over expenditure of energy as a threat, and it's going to hang on to that fat. And I see this a lot in women that say, I go to the gym every day. I work out, you know, an hour a day and I'm still not losing weight. It's really about, it's not about training less, but it's about fueling for the way that you do train. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and training the correct way. So I have touched on this again before, where a lot of people do go to the gym every day, but they're sitting at a medium intensity exercise every single day, and they're not going above and training high enough, and they're not going below and training and having a recovery. You can't sit in the middle every day. You need to be training here, or you need to be down here and not here. Yeah.
Because training in any form is a stress on the body. And one of the things that as women we have to remember, midlife, and I hate to admit it, but that's where I am and where many of us are, midlife is not a time to stress the body. It's actually a time to support the body. And supporting your training appropriately is when you're really going to start to see those results.
Yeah, look, I'm not going through this. However, I am 38 and I was the person that needed to do exercise every day. But I've even got to the point where I need to have a recovery and I train better. So I haven't trained for 3 days. This is the first day I trained because my body just does not, I don't know to wake up feeling good. I need to recovery. So I've really focused on prioritizing my recovery now, and I feel so much better, so much better.
This actually reminds me of a conversation that we had this week around not just fueling your body for training, but one of the things that I think as women, especially if you are doing strength training that's different than it is for men, is trying to train in a fasted state. Women's cortisol levels are naturally at a higher set point to men. And if we approach the morning by, being in a fasted state and then going to do training, your cortisol levels are at their highest peak in the morning. If you add training on top of that, all you're doing is pushing that cortisol level up, and cortisol is your fight and flight response. And one of its things is it's going to also add to that insulin resistance because, why do you need to do anything that has insulin in it? If you're stuck in flight or flight, you cannot burn fat. you cannot grow muscle, okay? Because the cortisol is impeding the ability for the muscles to get their energy source. So
are you saying, I'm just going to really dumb this down. If I eat in the morning and then go do exercise, I'll burn more fat than having nothing, eating nothing.
You will perform better,
Yep.
and you will build muscle and strength faster.
There you go.
You cannot
Yep.
train in an emptied state
Yep.
and expect to get results. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
But you are also likely to lose weight more consistently.
Yeah, and that is the key, consistently.
Yeah. Everything in this stage is about consistency, really. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to question 4.
Or 3. I think we're at 3.
No.
Anxiety? Are we doing the anxiety?
Number 4.
Okay.
Why am I training hard but gaining? We've covered that one.
Yep.
So what are 3 things a woman experiencing anxiety in perimenopause can do to elevate it?
Alleviate. We do things every day to elevate it. Every day. I've got my glasses here. Look, probably one of the first things we can do, and you'll hear me repeat these things throughout because they are so important, is stabilizing your blood sugar. A lot of women will actually think that they're sort of in an anxious state, but really they're just, their hormones are kind of going everywhere. Stabilizing the blood sugar helps limit those peaks and troughs. Cortisol goes up, fires up your adrenal glands. So you spin out of control, and it's
so
just
eat regularly.
Eat regularly. Eat the things that help stabilize blood sugar. Eat proteins. Eat fats. Eat more complex carbohydrates. Not the stuff that burns super quickly. Forget your white toast and jam, because that is not what you want to be training on. You want to be training on protein, and that's going to help alleviate the anxiety quite a lot.
When it comes to how many times you eat per day, is that different for everybody? Is it like regular meals, 3 times a day?
Yeah, look, that is different for everyone. Typically, it is different for everyone, depending on what's going on for you. But breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then if you're training, heavily, then you probably need snacks. You don't want to underfuel, but you don't want to overfuel either. Yeah. So. The second thing you can do is really support your nervous system. Aside from, strength training, walking, doing breath work, doing mindfulness exercises, anything that really helps settle that cortisol down is going to help you address anxiety. You can't think your way out of anxiety when your nervous system is not supported, okay? You want to reduce the total stress load. Not just your mental stress load, but your physical stress load as well. We're all kind of like running around with our like a chicken with our head cut off. So again, over-exercising, under-eating, poor sleep, those sort of things, those are going to add to the anxiety, add to the hormonal disruption. So you really want to focus on total stress reduction. Many women, just like I say, they're not anxious. They're just underfueled.
Yeah. And number 3.
That was it. Stabilize blood sugar, support nervous system. Yeah.
All right. Does nutrition need to change in perimenopause and menopause? And we did touch on this before about intermittent fasting. So I guess go into a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah.
And can nutrition really help with symptoms like hot flushes, mood, and sleep?
Okay.
Big topic.
Big topic. First part is, does nutrition need to change? Yes. I've already said it before. Protein needs increase. Blood sugar stability is critical. Long fasting windows, and this is a question that I get a lot. A lot of people are into intermittent fasting, some in time-restricted eating. They are 2 different things. When we have longer fasting windows in perimenopause, that can actually exacerbate your symptoms. It can exacerbate anxiety if you have it. It can exacerbate mood instability. It can exacerbate sleep. So for perimenopausal women, I typically do not recommend you do intermittent fasting.
Can you just go over intermittent fasting, and if people don't know, like what would be the window? Is that 16/8? Is that
that is what 16/8 is really more time restricted eating.
That's time restricted.
Yeah, that's time restricted eating, and that can be beneficial. Intermittent fasting is sort of when you're coupling that with doing full-on fasts for a day, and a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
Regular meal times, starting in the morning, especially, have something to eat. Within 30 to 60 minutes, eat something 30 to 60 minutes from when you wake up. That helps lower the cortisol, whether you're training or not. It just sets you up for a more stable, more, less anxious day, and even, more even energy across the day. I'm not saying that intermittent fasting is bad. In some postmenopausal women, it can be helpful. And we may need to have a completely different live on what happens in postmenopause, because intermittent fasting can be really helpful for addressing blood sugar instability. It can be really helpful for addressing cholesterol in some people. Postmenopausal women that are not stressed, that are sleeping well, that are not anxious. And I am sorry, but I don't meet very many of those in my practice, nor am I one of them. So I think this is where it really is about context over trend when it comes to what style of eating is right for women in these transitional phases. And this is where an individual approach and I think a supported approach is really important.
Yeah.
What's going to work for the gym bro that you might see on Insta ain't going to work for us.
Yeah.
So getting some real guidance on that, I think, is super important. Like I said, it's not the time of life to be stressing the system.
And
it's time to be supporting it. It does cause stress. Yeah.
And we do not want more stress.
We don't want more stress.
Yeah. Who does?
Yeah.
And can nutrition help with the symptoms like hot flushes?
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it can help with that. With mood, with sleep. When you're stabilizing the blood sugar, when you are balancing those micronutrient intakes, and that is really important because lots of things get shifted in peri. It provides like the foundational framework to help alleviate those systems. I see we've got some things coming in there as well. But if you're supporting gut and you're supporting your liver health, those things really impact your symptomology in peri.
Controversial. Men go through changes, mood swings, etc. from late 30s onwards, often called midlife crisis. If there is no test for perimenopause, how do we know perimenopause is not just the same? Men go through changes, mood swings, etc. from late 30s onwards. How do we know that we're not? So are you saying that, how do we know that we're just not going through mood swings as females?
Again, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not that there's no one test, let's put it that way. And again, perimenopause is a transition, not a diagnosis. When men are going through their mood swings, theirs is also related to hormones. Theirs is just different hormones. And, make no mistake, they've got estrogen, they've got progesterone, they've got testosterone, they've got all the hormones that we do. They've got FSH, LH, all the things that drive their own sex hormone production. So I can tell you that in late stages, men kind of go through menopause. We go through menopause, and I got my theories on what that could mean. But they do go through menopause. So it's not that there aren't things we can look at. Again, more of these things are functional tests, and you really have to know what to look for. Which tests are more sensitive. Urine can often be, there's a test, called spot urine that we can look at to see how well your estrogens are working, which one is higher and lower. We've got more than one estrogen in the body, and they each have a different function. And it looks at cortisol. How high is that cortisol? How are those things balanced? Again, it's looking at you, it's looking at your history, it's looking at your symptoms and where you might be within that phase. Again, if you're of this age, you're not going to start going, most women are not going to start going through perimenopause in their 50s, okay? We know from the timeline of just natural biology where things fit. And like I said before, if you're experiencing a series of symptoms and you're in tune with that and you can't explain it, chances are it's hormonally driven. Yeah. I hope that answers that question. If not, come back to us and I'll try to answer it separately.
And I'm going to touch on sleep. So I have 95% of the females that walk in to the gym always say they get no sleep and they happen to wake up around 3 o'clock. Is there a reason for that? It's 3 o'clock,
yes.
Always 3.
And this is what I said in the last question, supporting liver health. Mm-hmm. So in holistic medicine, and particularly Chinese medicine, the body clock goes around essentially centered around organs, okay? 3 a.m. is a real liver sign. It's a sign that your body's struggling. And if you start to notice what your lifestyle may be doing that may be stressing your liver, like you may, be consuming alcohol, and this is a big one for women because, when we are stressed and we are anxious, and this isn't everyone, but, I have to look at myself here, especially during perimenopause, I would maybe turn to alcohol to help dampen down the stress, before I really started doing mindfulness and meditation and all those things, and I still do it sometimes. You're burdening your liver at a time where your body's trying to rest and restore. And each thing that you're putting into your system doesn't just go in and come out. You don't have alcohol and, I got to go to the bathroom, and then you pee it out. That is actually going through an entire metabolic process and detoxification process. And a lot of that happens overnight. And so when you wake up, this happens with people that drink, it happens a lot with people that smoke, it happens a lot with people that are on medications, because all of those things are hitting the liver at that prime detoxification time. Also, the blood sugar stability is a big thing, because our liver is intricately involved in blood sugar stability. So it's not, it's not just the stuff that you eat. Your liver helps make something that goes on to be glucose in the bloodstream. And so if you don't have that on an even keel, that's where the 3 a.m. wake up comes from.
So if someone that doesn't drink, so I know a lot of my clients don't really drink, they don't really smoke, is there any tactics, so blood sugar, is there any tactics going into sleep that they should maybe look at?
Yeah, if it's sleep disruption itself, and not just that 3 a.m. wake time, because I do see an entire sleep disruption. Doing things like minimizing your screen time is super important before bed. You kind of trying to readjust your body clock rather than the alarm that we have to follow for life, really setting it a little more around the circadian rhythm. And this is where, getting that daylight exposure first thing in the morning before we all switch on our phones and, scroll through Instagram or do anything like that. Don't check the emails, don't check the messages. Step outside, get a little bit of light. You might be going, well, that's in the morning. How's that affecting my sleep? It does. Because what you're wanting to do is signal your body to go, now it's time to start adjusting my cortisol, Start adjusting cortisol, getting ready for the day. That's going to carry over into the afternoon. So then you also follow that circadian rhythm in the evening. You don't have all the blue light stuff going in the evening. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd actually kind of watch the sunset, same as you do with the sunrise. You do the same thing at sunset. That actually signals your little pineal gland that's sitting up here to go, okay, it's time to start settling down. I need to start thinking about making a bit of melatonin, and which doesn't put you to sleep but prepares the body for sleep. So when we're watching TV at night, when we're ignoring our tiredness and going, I'll just go wash those dishes, or I'll just do this. You know, you're skipping your natural rhythm. You're skipping the natural sleep cycle. And so you may end up staying up for 90 minutes because that sleep cycle tends to come in 90 minutes. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
If you go, I'm freaking exhausted, but I want to do, I've got to do this, this, and this. Yeah. And if you do this, this, and this, and you miss that time frame, you throw out the evening of sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you touched on melatonin.
Yep.
You want natural melatonin. I know.
We have natural melatonin. Ideally, that is what you're relying on. If you need melatonin to assist you in sleep, that really is a short-term method and support, because you don't want your body to stop making its own melatonin. You don't want to rely on getting to sleep, because some people, like myself, if I take melatonin, it might help me settle down for sleep, but I will wake up in the middle of the night. And again, because it's a medication. You know, it's a medication. So I think we do have a question that will talk about some supplements that can help with those things. So we will talk about that in context of what that person asked.
The last question for the moment, before we get on some other ones, is if I've already heard about HRT, what else actually matters?
Okay. I think my main point here is HRT is a tool. Okay, it's just a tool. The foundations that you build are the framework. So if you are chronically stressed, if you are overtraining, if you are underfueling, if you have a messed up gut, if your blood sugar is bounding all over the place, that is not going to allow HRT to do its work. Getting your house in order, getting your body in order, getting those foundations really strong and stable will help HRT and any other medication you need to be on work better. We cannot expect medication to fix things that it was never intended to fix. Okay? So HRT is simply a tool that can help with estrogen when we're lacking in estrogen. It can't help with blood sugar control. It ain't going to fix your cholesterol. It's not necessarily going to support in weight loss. It's not necessarily going to support cardiovascular health. It really is just a tool. That can help. Get your
house in order.
Get your house in order.
Get your house in order first. Yeah, great. All right. So these are, we just touched on this before. This is a huge one that gets asked regularly. Are there foods and natural supplements that can help reduce menopausal symptoms, particularly around weight gain and low energy?
And this actually is, I can't remember who asked it, but when you first advertised this, somebody did ask this question. So it is, like I said, it is worth noting that HRT on its own isn't going to offer women weight loss the same as no single food or single supplement is going to offer you weight loss. Okay, but there are foods that can help you, as we said, with the symptoms, with weight loss and with energy, and there are supplements. So if you're combining all of those things together, it by itself isn't going to be helping with weight loss, just like no single food or supplement. So again, eating adequate protein, really important. Eating the right fats in the right amounts, also really important, because we do continue to make hormones in a roundabout way, even if we're not on HRT, and fat is an important part of that. So having, healthy fats, so fish and avocados and olives and good nuts, those healthy fats, that's really helpful. The fiber for gut health and glucose regulation is going to help both weight and energy and symptoms. In terms of supplements, if I were to think about what is one of the main supplements that I prescribe, I do prescribe a compound formula that has certain types of magnesium that the body can absorb, and that tends to be citrate and glycinate, along with B vitamins, all in one formula, and taurine. Those are really beneficial for energy production, Taurine's really beneficial for metabolic function and digestion.
What is that? Is that a supplement? I've never heard of that.
So taurine, it's in the one that you take, for instance. Yeah, taurine is an amino acid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's built in there. Yeah, taurine is it's a pretty amazing amino acid. So those can be really helpful in terms of energy production and weight loss. The other thing is, when you're eating the protein and you still want to support that recovery, creatine, and creatine in the right amount, not too high, and it isn't for everyone. I was just talking to Hayley about that.
I didn't know this, so about creatine.
So you'll see creatine
everywhere.
all over. Everybody's touting creatine is the next big thing. It's been around a long, long time. The biggest research behind it, especially for menopausal women, is its ability to support brain health. It really does help with cognition and brain fog, and there's some excellent research around that. And if you are interested, if you're menopausal and you're interested in seeing that, let me know, get in touch, and I'll shoot that over to you, because it is great. But you don't need to be massively loading on creatine, and you don't need to be doing it every day. Some women are downing, 5 to 7 to 10 to 15 grams. We are not men. Our bodies do not process things the same way. 3 grams of protein a day is enough. It's enough to support your training. It's enough to support cognition. It's enough to support recovery. Okay, that's for a standard women that are strength training.
And is there a particular time of day that you take it?
Look, I find, and a lot of women find, it's better to have it in the morning, because it can actually disrupt your sleep if you take it later in the day. That is a real thing. So again, it depends on the individual. You have to find out what your response is. But when I do take it, and I don't take it all the time, I do tend to take it in the morning.
Yeah, and is that the same for magnesium?
Look, magnesium, depending on the supplementation and how much you actually need, if you're combining it with something like taurine, which ideally you have 3 grams a day of, and that's split dose, I do tend to split mine across the day. So in the morning, because the B vitamins for a lot of people are better in the morning. And then if you're really looking for just a type of magnesium to help you sleep, then citrate and glycinate, because glycinate converts to glycine, which is a really great sleep aid. Then you could take that 60 minutes before bed, half an hour to 60 minutes before bed, and that might support your sleep better.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And when it comes to magnesium, because everyone has heard about magnesium, the supermarket stuff. Is that, so there's a lot of people that just go buy the Swiss or, whatever brand. I'm not going to mention brands, but. Yeah,
look, as a clinical nut, nutritionist and nutrition nut, I work in the field of prescribing therapeutic nutrients. Quality with supplementation is really important to me, because if you're getting things that are not the right quality, they're not the right form, supplementation can be really expensive, and you're just wasting it out. You're just peeing out your money, essentially, or pooping it out in the case of magnesium. If you go just pick some off the shelf at Kohl's, and it's got oxide in it, that's really probably not the type of magnesium that you're looking for to help deal with your perimenopausal symptoms. It'll help with your constipation, because it'll scour you right out. But is that really, what you're looking for? So there are some good over-the-counter brands that you can look at, but I think form is really important. And there are lots of different forms of magnesium.
Please reach out to Heather with regards to this. I have swapped over my supplementation with Heather, and I notice a difference. I actually notice a difference.
It can make a difference. The form is important, and the dosing is important.
So please reach out to Heather when it comes to your supplementation.
And the magnesium and the taurine are also both, I can't, talk about the symptoms. The person asked about, weight loss and fatigue, but also magnesium and taurine are really, really good for hot flushes as well. So just mention that. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Yep, there you go.
And preferably a combo, so you're not, you're not actually like taking a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
For hot flushes also, again, minimizing or avoiding alcohol altogether. If you've got hot flushes, minimizing spicy food. Lots of people have triggers. Chocolate's a big one for a lot of people. I know, yeah, just wait. Just wait. It's all right.
What are the absolute staple foods you recommend incorporating into the diet?
Now look, I'm going to apologize in advance to the person that asked this question, because that is a loaded question for me. I have a lot of staples. And so I'm going to tell you, and there are a lot for different people, but I'm going to tell you what I keep in my pantry in my fridge always, because you can always come up with something with this. Whole grain oats. It is such a fantastic form of fiber for perimenopause, for menopause. It's a more complex carbohydrate as well, and so it's going to help fuel you. It's going to help offer satiety. It feeds those beautiful gut bugs and helps fuel, the insides, the lining of your intestine to help keep inflammation down. And so whole grain oats. Eggs. My gosh, what can't you do with eggs? Frittata, scrambled eggs, omelets, Yeah, eggs, that's a staple for sure. Cottage cheese and yogurt. Again, you'll see these being protein-rich foods, but you're not going to live off protein supplementation, I hope. Really, combining your protein types, high-quality protein foods to help you reach that 30 grams, means you might be in. Watch her lives. She's doing little videos all the time of what her lunch and her brekkie looks like. It might mean you're having 2 eggs and a bit of cottage cheese, and then
version.
Yeah. But yeah, so you want to make it simple. So yeah, cottage cheese and yogurt, avocado, pumpkin seeds, raw almonds, and raw walnuts. Those are really good sources of fats. They're really mineral dense as well, which is awesome. Pumpkin seeds have zinc in them, which is fantastic. Hummus, that's just a great thing to be snacking on.
Yeah.
You can put hummus in anything. You can even add it to your, Nourish bowls. It's great.
I add it to wraps all the time.
Yeah. Instead of, the fattier stuff like mayo, which isn't going to, just think about food is this going to nourish my body? Is it going to nourish my body in a good way? Berries, apples, and pineapple when I can get it. Pineapple is a really great thing on top of cottage cheese because it's also got digestive enzymes in it naturally in the core, which can help break down those proteins a little better. Quinoa and chickpeas. Quinoa I love. Rice, I don't eat so much rice because I have blood sugar issues. And it's not nutrient dense, even brown rice. It's just not. Quinoa is almost a complete protein. It lasts in the fridge for several days, where rice, you really don't want to be eating rice as a leftover.
Pre-cook it, have it
Pre-cook it, and then whack it into all kinds of things. You can even have it as a porridge. So I love quinoa. Chickpeas is just a great fibrous-y, vegetarian protein. So it hits a lot. It hits carb, it hits protein, it hits fiber, and you can throw that in anything, which is also great. Even a smoothie if you're game. Your high quality proteins, making sure that you've always got, chicken or fish. I mean, I love fish. I eat high quality fresh fish, probably 3, sometimes 4 times a week. I just absolutely love it. And I need it for me. It's easily digestible. But then, the lean cuts of meat. I know as Australians we love our meat, but lean cuts of beef, lean cuts of lamb, like the lamb fillet and the back strap. Again, you can do almost anything with those. And spinach, tomato, and rocket. I have that on hand all the time.
Yeah, and you can just chuck it into anything really.
Spinach,
anything, curries,
whatever, we've got this thing my husband said, if it's worth eating, it's got spinach in it, So those are the staples in my kitchen. I hope that's helpful.
So if anyone does have any questions before we wrap this up, please shoot them through now. We've got, what should I be taking what should I be looking for in magnesium for performance cramps?
For performance cramps.
So if you're training hard and you have cramps, is that right?
Okay.
You're training, I suppose. Cramps, I'm assuming.
I suppose you want to know that you're that your cramps are actually related to magnesium, because when you get muscle cramps from training, it's often not just magnesium, it is a suite of electrolytes that's causing that cramping. If you're getting, let's say, leg cramps in the middle of the night or restless legs, you know, you want to know, is that magnesium? Is it iron? Is it calcium? Is it a combination of those three things? Yeah. So glycinate and citrate, again, that combination is a really good all-rounder for things like cramps. I also like a form called magnesium orotate. That sometimes works better for some people, works better for me for sleep. I get a bit stimulated sometimes on other forms of magnesium because, you know, I'm an individual and we're all different. So magnesium orotate, that's O-R-O-T-A-T-E. But citrate and glycinate is a really good all-rounder for most people, for most things. But just watch that. If you're continually getting muscle cramps, you want to make sure that you're maintaining hydration and that you're not, you know, you haven't done something to throw out your electrolytes.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Now, what would be I know this was like a lot of information for everybody. Let's summarize this. Let's give some really core takeaways that you would like someone listening to this to take away. Core takeaways.
Lordy, that's what we went through at the start. Again, perimenopause. It's a transition. Your nutrition needs to change. What works in your 30s does not work in your 40s, in your 50s. Make sure you are fueling for the activity that you're doing. Make sure that you fully understand what phase of the transition you're in so that you can get the right support. I suppose if any of this resonates with any of you and you recognize yourself in this, this is what I do. This is the sphere that I work in. And you are not broken. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. You haven't failed at life. It really just means that, you know, if things aren't working for you, you need support. This is what I do.
Yeah, and Heather is literally a wealth of knowledge. Like,
we have notes to keep me on track because we could be here for like 5 hours.
We joked that this could take about 3 hours because Heather loves this topic, like you do.
I do, yeah.
She's so passionate, so enthusiastic, and really wants to help women. So if you are in a state of confusion, there's so many people in there. I have people in tears. They're so confused. They tell me that they just don't feel like themselves anymore. There is help, and I want to help you, and I want to use the sources that I have, like Heather, who want to help women. So please reach out. There's Dr. Carter as well. There's Heather. Please reach out to any of these amazing women and seek help, because you do not
have to fear it. Don't fear. Don't fear it. When I walked in, Hayley said, "We're going to talk about the worst possible time in people's lives." It does not have to be, and neither does menopause. If you are doing the right things to support yourself, all it is a transition. It doesn't have to be, you know, the stressful thing that everybody makes it out to be. It doesn't have to be the pulling your hair out. Those things can happen. But I guess what I really want women to understand is you have far more control over this journey than you are led to believe. Okay, you really do. You have way more control over what's happening in your body than you are led to believe. And I think that's probably the most important takeaway. And let's help you get control back. Yeah.
All right. Well,
so thanks for joining us.
Wrap it up, and hopefully you got a lot of information out of this. I'd like to thank Heather for coming on and shedding a little bit of light on this topic. All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
See ya.